Oh yeah.
Welcome, 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 everybody.
Living hip hop.
This is Living Hip
Hello.
Hop, our third edition, conversations about hip hop education, and we have been interviewing my co-host, Self Suffice, Khaiim the Rapoet. We've been interviewing organizers as well as featured guests at the 15th Trinity International Hip Hop Festival, which was held April 9th through 11th this past month. It's still up online, and you'll be seeing that header come up real shortly, but make sure you check it out. It's got about 4 more days or less than a week up online.
Wow. Limited
time. But we are very happy because, like we're saying in past interviews and conversations with our guests, the Trinity Temple of Hip Hop is sort of the key to all this that makes it work, right? All of this stuff is interconnected, and we're lucky enough to have one of the lead organizers of this year's festival, Adyanna Odom. Welcome, Adyanna.
Yeah.
Hello. Thanks for the warm welcome.
So Adyanna, and just a little bit of background. Adyanna is a sophomore at Trinity College. She is majoring in international studies with a hip hop concentration in that. First person to do that. First person to do that.
I didn't know that.
History of international studies. You are the first person to have a thematic focus.
She's different.
She's on a different level. But then also she is, hailing from Houston, Texas.
Yes, sir.
Listen, I think you are maybe the first African-American lead student organizer. We've had Puerto Ricans, we've had Dominicans, we've had, all across the ethnic platform, but I don't think we've actually ever had a lead student organizer who was African-American from the South. We usually get Chicago posse people. You know what I mean? Like, it's either Chicago, New York, you're representing Houston, home of Scarface. I know I've talked to you a little bit, Adyanna, about sort of your parents being hip-hop people. Can you talk a little bit about Houston hip-hop and your relationship to that?
Yeah, sure. Interesting. So, like you mentioned, like my mom was really into Houston hip hop. Interestingly enough, my mom is Peruvian. So she was born in Peru. She's also like Afro-Peruvian. Like,
I take that back then. My bad.
Oh no, I'm African American too, because my dad is African American. So you're not wrong. I'm Black regardless.
Yeah, of course. That's my point.
But my mom immigrated here in her like
very
teens.
down south.
Yeah, no, for real. Like my family lives in the country. Like my Black family, they live in El Campo, Texas. If you've ever heard of that place,
there's a deep connection between Peru and Afro-Latino and Black people in general. And one of the dudes that I grew up with in my hood in the LES, one of my best friends, like to this day, he's Peruvian. I didn't know that growing up. I just thought, okay, everybody Puerto Rican, he's Latino, he's Peruvian. So there's always been a connection. So, I'm always interjecting these things. I just wanted to interject that there's this unspoken thing, just like this year, people are finding out hip hop in Turkey is getting real big. There's been an ongoing connection between Peru and Black people and Afro-Peruvians who, like you say, are already Black, that I hope we can touch on a little bit in this interview, because it isn't talked about a lot, and there's something there,
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I feel like definitely, and I think race is kind of interesting because it's viewed differently. Like when you're in Peru, like, for example, like, like the town that, my grandma is from in Huánuco, like, they don't have any like Black people. And so like when I was there, they were like, whoa, like, cause I'm like, they have indigenous people, like, there are ladies that like live in the mountains and stuff like that. But like, like Black people like me, like they were kind of taken back because most of the Black people, most of the population in Peru is in the capital, which is Lima. And that's where like most of the Afro-Peruvian people are. You know, and they usually don't leave Lima because there's not much else in Peru except like jungles and mountains. My grandma's town is at the bottom of a hill, you know, like on some country stuff. Like there's not much. And so they were like, oh, you're not from here. Like you got to be from at least Lima. Like you're not from this place. So I think, you know, Peruvian people
and
definitely
that's where your grandma actually is from, though.
That's where my grandma's from Wanako. My grandma's from Wanako. And my grandpa.
And she's Afro-Peruvian.
No, my grandpa is Afro-Peruvian. And he's from Lima.
Okay,
and he's from Lima. Yeah. And then, which is interesting because they have such a strong connection to like cumbia music and like salsa music, which is like inherently Black, you know? And so like, he's always like, get up and dance, like get up and move with me. He taught me how to dance, all of that. And like, you know, I automatically like grew up just kind of being proud of like, always seeing like salsa bands, you know, usually at least the ones we listen to, it's like Black people, like, and so it's like I grew up seeing them and being like, oh, this is live, like we make music, like we dance, we create art. And then like that translates to like my mom, me growing up in Houston and her listening to like, you know, DJ Screw, like her getting into the local art scene, you know, being a recent immigrant and identifying, you know, with Black people, and like falling into hip hop and her loving hip hop. And me, that carrying down to me, because I grew up listening to Tupac. I grew up listening to DJ Screw. I grew up listening to Ghetto Boys. You know, that's what I grew up listening to. I grew up listening to Scarface, Big Mo, all of them, Fat Pat, you know. And so like now growing up, I got into the hip hop scene in Houston right before I came to college. In high school, Houston throws like, we have shows. So like, you know, rappers, like 10, you know, 12 rappers will go up. There'll be vendors and stuff. And
festivals.
It's like, right, you know, like stuff like that.
Events,
and like, you just get to meet like local artists, up and coming rappers, like up and coming creatives in the Houston area, you know, and it's awesome.
Isn't Beyonce from Houston?
Beyonce, Meg the Stallion.
Houston is a mecca. Yeah. Houston is a mecca.
Yeah, I love it there. I love it.
That's for real, yo. So you're coming to Trinity already, you know, with this sort of hip hop interest. And I think what's unique about you is being a sophomore, you know, your first year, the festival got canceled. Your second year, you got thrust into probably the most demanding student lead organizer job on campus. I have no idea, but I'm just assuming. I just know there's a lot of work, and here's someone who's the lead student organizer of a festival you've never seen and a festival you've never been a part of because it was, you know, you helped in the organizing last year, but it didn't happen, so you never got to see it in live flesh, but now you're imagining it and leading this coalition of organizers from different generations to organize a virtual festival. So just kind of talk about being thrust in that position and what it was like, what was it like being co-lead student organizer of something you haven't really seen or been a part of?
I was scared. I remember like when you know, the previous student organizers, Gigi and Karen, told me like I want, you know, you to be like the lead student organizer next year. I was already kind of like, oh, like, okay, like it's the fest, like we got to make sure this is good, like we got to do it for the culture, you know? Whenever
like good nervous at that point, you were like excited,
like excitement, nervous. Yeah, like to see like what could come, like what we could create, and like, but when we got that email that COVID hit, everyone had to go home. I was terrified. I was like, I'm not even gonna be able to see this festival occur. I personally last year worked specifically on Youth for Change. Right. And so I know how Youth for Change works in and out.
Who just for anyone listening, Jasmine was our guest last week. So make sure you go and listen to that. Jasmine definitely shouts you out as how amazing it is that you never went to a live festival and managed to make this work so well. So you should check that episode too. She definitely bigs you up.
Wow, I definitely will. I love Jasmine. Jasmine is an amazing community partner and is just an amazing person to work with and has a great creative mind. So shout out Jasmine too, for sure. For sure.
So that was your intro, working on Youth for Change with Jasmine at first.
Right. I worked with Renita who's been like my co-lead this year. I worked with Renita and Jasmine last year with Youth for Change. So, and that works very differently from other sections of the festival because there's workshops and there's a showcase. And so you're kind of coordinating, two different groups of youth and like trying to figure out, how to represent hip hop culture and expose it to them versus like having to do that for an entire community, like I know what I'm focused on is geared towards the youth, and that's what I've seen. But like for the favorites showcase, for the B-boy B-girl battle, just like all other elements of the showcase, I personally hadn't worked on it. And so I was just like, and so I was counting on the fest to show me what it looked like. So I have like a blueprint of what next year needed to be. And then that didn't happen. But interestingly enough, as terrified as I was, I feel like what helped was like the documentation. Even seeing like pictures of, what the B-boy B-girl battle like used to do and like how it used to make the crowd feel. I'm like, okay, like this is what it's supposed to represent, like this is how it's supposed to be. Like, and having such easy accessibility to that documentation and to all of you guys, to the community partners who have been working with us for a long time and know how things run and have seen how things work, to Professor Markle, who's been a long time advisor, even to, Renita, people who have seen it happen once or twice in the past organizers. Like, y'all really supported me to where I felt like, okay, maybe I don't completely know what the favorite showcase looks like in the festival, but I know it's going to be fire because I'm working with Suffice to put it together. I know he has the experience that'll fill in what I'm lacking. And that's really what
Okay, now full disclosure, in the middle of this, I actually had to leave the state and that put like a big change in. I mean, there's always things going on. There was already things to work around and read. But part of that was me having to leave the state for like a week. And so that's what Adyanna is bigging me up for, being supportive and stuff like that. But really, like, it wasn't helpful for me to leave at that point, So I just want this theme to continue, that being recognized, that you are someone who saw, right? A lot of people, when things go on in a festival like this, there's all types of unplanned things go on. And there's people who have this beautiful idea or did see the festival even in person, and their inclination is going to be to say, this isn't like this isn't supposed to be like this. You actually saw things going on that even if you hadn't been there, you're like, wait, this wasn't supposed to happen and that wasn't happening. But you said, you recognize, oh, I do have support. I am working with a team of people who are all trying to make this work, right? So that's actually a skill that is worthy of being documented. That's something that you need to be praised and recognized for, because that's what makes big things with a lot of moving parts work, is almost to expect things that are unexpected and go, cool, here's the next unexpected thing. How do we work with that? As opposed to, oh, this thing was unexpected. And then a lot of people freeze up, they start blaming each other, and it goes downhill from there. You didn't do that, right? So that's a leadership quality that I don't know if you recognize in yourself, but it's really part of what made this work, your ability to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to second on that. One of the interesting things as I watched Temple over the years is that the festival's success, the festival always happens. So in some ways it's always success, but as organizers, we know what went wrong during the process or what was challenging. And one of the things that I've learned is that the festival energy and the positivity, a lot of that has to do with the ways in which Temple supports each other. Right. So not just these outside forces and the ways in which Temple gets along. I've been a faculty advisor where the members did not like each other. Right. I've been a part of the festival where it's like the lead organizer is like, everybody is dead weight. I got to do the work and I'm going to make it through. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges, how that went within Temple and how you guys worked as a student entity during a very challenging year of a pandemic where there's a lot of things going on in y'all's personal lives, schoolwork, which was extra hard, I know, as a faculty person. So what was working in Temple like? Did they feel like you were respected as a leader, underclasswoman? We have some juniors and seniors, you know what I mean? Like, can you talk a little bit about the experience working and leading Temple?
Yeah. You know, interestingly enough, I feel like I was just talking to Ray, one of our student organizers who does the B-Boy B-Girl or helps coordinate the B-Boy B-Girl battle alongside Pop Tart. And Ray, I was just talking to Ray about how we love all of the students that are in Temple. Like the people that we work with, like we're so thankful that we're all friends. Like we can all like talk to each other. Nobody's beefing. Nobody has some other stuff going on the side that's now influencing what's happening in the org because now y'all don't want to talk to each other, whatever. Like we don't have that, and we're thankful for that, and it helps us work more fluid and without as much like friction. But there's definitely still the challenges of just, and I don't know, I think this might come because we're creative, but it's like dates, like trying to get things done on time. Like just, I don't know what it is. I feel like it does not work like on any level. Like, and maybe it's because there's also so many moving parts. So it's really hard to get everybody to get their stuff in on time. But and then it's also like it's creative. So like you have to be willing to be a little bit flexible with like when people can produce their art because it's their art and you want the most authentic.
Go in the zone right now.
Yeah, right. You can't be like, put your verse right now. I need it. Like, you know, you gotta be like, all right, you know, please. Like when the, you know. So I feel like that's definitely been challenging, especially. And this year, a particular challenge I think that has been presented to us because of the virtual format was just with technology in general. So it's like kind of, you know, video quality, like little things I think I noticed because like I'm working on the back end and of course I'm like, okay, I want it to look, you know, just like this. I want everyone's stuff to be pristine, like, you know, video quality, like things of that nature that I feel like were faulty. Even like when the fest was going on, there was some stuff that played a little too soon, went a little too late, things of that nature where it's like, like there's a mess up, but it's just out of your control, you know, it's just stuff that you have to, you know, try to take note of and do better next time.
At a live show, the DJ or the host can come in and like, hey, like roll those over. And a shout out to Boo and shout out to how y'all organize that because I did feel like y'all did have Boo in there, and that was remarkable actually. That the fact that in between events and when things were delayed, we got to hear Boo mixing and stuff like that.
Right. Shout out DJ Boo, been involved with the fest since I think the first festival, right? Since the very first festival, our mixtape king out here doing it for us.
But can I highlight some of what you said? You said one of the things with timing is the creative process. So when you're organizing and you're organizing with young people, right, as well as just creative people, one of the things that you're trying to do is massage them into certain deadlines without stopping the flow, right? Because with the creative flow, if there's a lot of force, it's almost like don't let the force be with you. It's not like Star Wars. It's like let the flow be with you. Because when you force creatives, it's like you can stop the flow. And then they can give you something, but it's not going to be what you wanted, and then everybody leaves.
And on the flip side,
other part, and that's the more creative part, right? The more technical part that me and Professor Markle like have to deal with all the time is just what you recognize, which is the timing in general of things. Timing, moving around, different moving parts, more students, more people from different backgrounds getting involved. And I think one of the things that I would add to what you said, just to give vocabulary to what you said, is that there's different kinds of time commitments that we work on. So there's deadlines, there's preparation time, there's actually working on the thing time, there's review time, there's pending times when you're waiting for someone to get back to you. And that becomes something that I think you dealt with a lot. When you're an administrator, when you're doing an assignment for your professor, right? You do it. When you're working with a partner or a group, there's you and someone else doing it. When you're administrating other people and they're in different places and it's virtual, you start to respect this bigger process. So just the vocabulary is knowing different times of timing, transition times, preparation times, working times, waiting for a partner times, just giving yourself credit. And then in the future, the more we work on these things, understanding whenever we're asking for something, how many of those different timings are we asking for? Are we just asking for you to do something for me? Or are we asking for you to be pending with other people and organizing?
Right. And on the flip side too, even making those deadlines, it's also telling artists that this is what it is like to be professional, right? This is what it's like to get paid for your art. You actually have to deal with deadlines, and you have to produce your art by this deadline. You know what I mean? And so it is this interesting trade-off and negotiation that takes place. We don't have too much time, Adyanna. I do want to get to the festival itself. So talking about the challenges of organizing, talking about temple dynamics, which went really well. What did you make of the end product?
I thought the festival was amazing. I was so happy, and I feel like every time, I hear people talk, or at least organizers, like student organizers, talk about it, they say it's like, I don't know, almost like a magical thing that happens, because this year especially, I got to witness live people connecting from all around the globe around hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like around this shared, very personal experience that, empowers all of us. And so to just see that happening, and not only to see it, but to know that like me and like the Temple of Hip Hop put in the work, and like we made it happen, and it's beautiful. Because I thought the website was beautiful. I thought everything was exactly how we pictured it, how I pictured it, how we wanted to be. And so it was just, and
Simple,
the Padlet with everyone saying like what hip hop meant to them, their experiences with the festival. It was just such a positive and empowering and fulfilling experience. I thought it went great, and I hope everybody, enjoyed it, or at least found something, one thing that you can be like, all right, I rock with this.
I can't wait to see how many people log in now, because only so many people could log in when it was live. But for these next few days that it's still on, and then it's gone, check that link at the bottom, y'all. Understand what I'm saying? It's not
check it out. It's got 3 videos up there: day 1, day 2, day 3. Adyanna,
my favorite part,
go ahead.
Seth, favorite part was actually one of my favorites. There's a lot of favorite parts, but one of my favorite parts was the part where the temple members, were doing your transitions. And I was just wondering if you could just spend a minute telling us all, including me, how that came about, because it was what you said. It was visually on point. It wasn't by accident. It wasn't like someone just threw a camera. Y'all had the background, y'all had the theme, it reminded me of like MTV back in the days. Like, how did that come about, please?
That's funny, because the day of the shoot, so we shot it all in one day, COVID, right? So we're working with the school's videographer and this other, Angie and Sean. Shout out Angie and Sean. We love you guys. Y'all are awesome. Yes, so we're working with Angie and Sean, right? And we have to abide by guidelines. So only a certain amount of people can be in the room at a time. The background, we have this original temple backdrop. It's classic, has the temple logo on it, just to let people know we're the Temple of Hip Hop. For some reason, we could not locate it. I looked everywhere it possibly could have been, every crevice on campus, every storage room I could get access to, and it was nowhere to be found. And so the morning of, we're freaking out. I'm like, let's get fest posters, let's get t-shirts, like what can we get? And we make a call. We're like, okay, can I please check your basement? Like, this girl finally texts me back, and she's like, yes, you can check our basement. And that morning, like 30 minutes before the shoot, we see boards and boards of old temple, like graffiti boards. Because for those that don't know, we usually have our graffiti murals that are on these cubes that are set out outside, right? And they're cardboard cubes. And I found them, and I was like, this is it. This is perfect. Grab 2 that match. This is going to be our background. And we found, as soon as we saw the one that said Hartford stand up in the corner, we were like, that's the one. That's the one. We got to grab that one. And it's like, I'm calling my friend. I'm like, yo, please, like, you got the SUV. Like, can you please come by real quick? Like, we're holding on, getting the boards from one section of the college to the other. And we got it. Angie and Sean helped us set them up. And like, we got them up. and it went great. It went flawlessly from there. The students I love seeing them, because some of them are shy, right? We think of hip hop as so
Right.
outright and so
Right,
like,
right, right, right.
you know, in your face, but like some of our
Right.
students are really like shy creatives. And so
Right.
like to really put them on screen in front of the
Yeah.
camera where they like would prefer not to be, but I'm like, people need to see your face. Like, you did this work, like let them see it, and to see them shine, because they were so happy with how it came out too. So it was just amazing.
Thank you so
It was
much for
crazy getting
sharing
there,
that.
but I think everything worked out exactly how it needed to turn
Really
out.
did.
Great
Yeah.
visually.
Well, I know we got our next. Adyanna, I do have to cut this short. We got our next guest up, MC Marvelous, who's here in the studio. But we really appreciate you. We appreciate all the work you put in. I thought you were definitely my top 3 student lead organizers in my 10 years.
Yeah.
Broke into my top 3.
Yeah.
Yes!
You did a really good job. And I gotta say, Renita too. You guys work really well together. I gotta shout out Renita.
Right. The partnership.
The partnership is
Love
key.
Renita.
That's always been a critical element of the festival, having co-lead student organizers, because of just the weight of the task. You guys are carrying a lot of expectations from the world, from the Hartford community, and then of course from the Trinity community. So we appreciate you. Thank you for coming in. It's Living Hip Hop, Conversations about Hip Hop Education, Episode 3. Co-lead student organizer, Adyanna Odom. Thank you very much.
Thank you for lifting up so many people in your position of leadership.
Thank you guys so much for having me on, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.
Take care, all right? Peace.
Basta.
All right, so that was Adyanna Odom, co-lead student organizer, Trinity Chapter, Temple of Hip Hop.
H-Town.
15th Trinity National Hip Hop Festival, coming all the way from Houston, Texas to Hartford, Connecticut.